And good morning and welcome to Touch Base Daily. My name is Ron Foster and I'm touching base with you as I do every day. Oh man, need I say this every time I come on? There's a whole lot in the news. Every time I pop on, I have to say there's a whole lot in the news. I tell you. So now, I would not have known this information probably until this morning if it wasn't for Elise calling me up as it was happening. And we're going to talk about it. So now America, through Trump wants now to annex Gaza and make it the U.S. If there's never been something more stupid than that. Anyway, we're going to talk about it. We're going to dive into that. And we're going to dive into some of the congressional folks are stepping up to the plate. Some, not all, but some people are stepping up. The Board of Education, the Department of Education is being dismantled as he promised. So while everybody's looking at Gaza and everybody's looking at what's going on over there, they're destroying what's over here. You got to be able to look at everything at the same time because this is where we are. It is a distract and do. Distract and do. So while the heads are going to the left, they're working something out on the right. When your faces are looking at the right, they're turning something upside down at the left. This is where we are. But this is what America voted for. This is what America voted for. So here we are. FAFO. Yes, indeed. Okay, let's get some hellos in. I see you guys in the building. I see you in the building. Hannah says, "Good morning, Ron and Touch Base Daily family." Jazzy's in the building. She says, "Good morning, beautiful people. Hit the like button." Yes, Jazzy, thank you so much. Out the box, she says, "Y'all hit the like. The likes should be as even as the participants in this community. If there's 10 people in the community, well, right now there's 9 on the screen at the moment here, and there's 11 on now on Touch Base Daily on YouTube. And if you are in Instagram, you need to come on over to our YouTube channel where you can interact and enjoy the show in a more, let's say, community feel orientation. that word, that would line up of words did not make any sense, but you know what I mean. So here we go. Also, Kelly A is in the building. She says, "Good morning, everyone." And Miss G is in the building. She says, "Good morning." And Elise says, "Hello, Ron and everyone." So good to see Elise in here. She and Gwendolyn are behind stage waiting. And Lisa's in the building. She says, "Good morning." Jazzy says, "I had this unmuted in the background and the music scared me." Oh my goodness. And I see everybody's chiming in and saying hello to one another. Yes, Lisa, the orange man is insane. As they say, stop the insanity. Stop the insanity. Remember that back in the old days, back in the 80s? What was her name? I forgot her name. She was the aerobic woman, and she said, "Stop the insanity." Let's see here. Yes, Jazzy. This is America. And Gwendolyn says, "Watching for the okie dokes." Yes. And that Schumer chant was said. Yeah, Schumer. A lot of people are upset with Schumer, too. A lot of people are upset with Schumer. They're like, "Dude, get out the way. Get out the way." We need younger people, more aggressive. We need some more Jasmine Crockett's. We need more of them. And let's see here. What else are you saying? Basket full of okie dokie, says Lisa. Check the money grab. Yes, yes. I always tell people, if you want to know anything about any of these companies or governments or administrations or even people, follow the money. Follow the money. That's the point. The money. Follow the money. Hey, D Sava is in the building. What's going on, D? How are you? She says, good morning. D Sava is in the building. Hey, I am Miss Reese is in the building. She says, good morning to all the RLP cousins. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes, right. We are family. We are family. Okay, let me bring these ladies on because I'm gonna, well, let me go to the video first. And then, because you know what? Let me show you this. Let me just get the screen going because I love Fareed Zakaria on CNN. And when he speaks, we should be listening. He is I think, one of the most knowledgeable when it comes to Middle East and American affairs overseas, but really his strong point of views are the Middle East, and he has a great insight on world. We call it geopolitical information. So let me bring that on so you can see it. And while that's going on, I'll bring the ladies on. Okay, here we go. And let's go so you guys can hear this because this is going to help you in our discussion today. Okay, here we go.
Than our own Fareed Zakaria on all of this, and he joins me now. And Fareed, obviously, just to give everyone, I was at the White House all day. To catch everyone up, what had happened is before Prime Minister Netanyahu even got there, Trump was suggesting that Palestinians should leave Gaza, that it's not livable, that it's going to take 10 to 15 years to rebuild because of all the destruction there from the Israeli strikes since October 7th, since this war has started. Then he repeated it again in the Oval Office with Netanyahu seated by his side. And then he came out at that press conference, and that is when he made the news on his own without being asked by a reporter about the U.S. taking over the Gaza Strip. Obviously, an extraordinary statement from an American president. What are your takeaways, Fareed?
Well, it's breathtaking, and one doesn't really know where to begin. You asked the central question, Caitlin, which is, where would these people go? There are 2 million Palestinians in Gaza who have lived through several wars, several, incredibly intense bouts of violence with Israel because they want to live on their land. As you say, the neighboring countries, Egypt and Jordan, have both categorically and repeatedly said that they're not going to take people in. So it's not entirely clear how this happens. The United States would have to invade Gaza, would have to expel Hamas, conduct counterinsurgency operations against an insurgency there that would exist, would also have to persuade Egypt and Jordan to take these refugees. And, one has to point out, outside of all the geopolitical issues that raises, this is a president who came in saying he wanted to focus on America first. He didn't want us engaging in any grand global projects. Well, I mean, this is another war in the Middle East. And the last war in the Middle East we took part in ended up stretching out much longer, was much more complicated, and cost about $2 trillion. So, it seems very unlikely that this can go smoothly. You can imagine American power forcing the Egyptians to do something, forcing the Jordanians to do something, but you're going to have to put military on the ground to get Hamas to cede power, to get the Palestinians to move, to secure that area. And that is another military intervention in the Middle East.
And there you have that. It goes on. Check that out on CNN on that footage there. Now let's see. Let's have the ladies on. What's going on, ladies?
Good morning.
Well,
Greetings.
Elise, I'm so delighted to see you here because I didn't think I was going to see you this morning.
Oh, my poor communication on the other side. It's rescheduled till later. So I said, oh, I can go do this morning.
Well, I am always glad to, since it was you the one that broke the news to me. I was doing some work here in the house on some projects, and next you like, did you hear? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what are you talking about? What's going on? She said, you haven't heard? I was like, heard what? What are you talking about? And then she explained it. I was like, oh, and then at first I was like, well, let me check into this. So I obviously, the Google machine is my best friend. So I just said, is Trump and the Gaza Strip? And it just, all of the news media outlets came out. And I was like, one after another. Trump says, U.S. to take over
Gaza Strip.
Gaza.
And I mean, the sad part is like, you think about it. Here he is with Netanyahu. He and Bibi standing together, side by side, announcing that he's going to take the Gaza Strip. America's going to take it. And it's like, how are we going to take something? And how are we going to make people take almost 2 million people? And then at the same time, I don't know if the other part is saying that Israel should go ahead and take the West Bank, which I think they say to drive the numbers up to 4 or 5 million people that you said they're gonna go someplace else. And I know early on he was like, oh yeah, we can build housing for them. Of course, the housing wasn't there. I build housing in other Arab countries, but to take them. And
but people also forget that Trump made this declaration. Like everyone was talking about how he mentioned about that land, Gaza, the Gaza Strip they can make it into a Riviera, the French Riviera. He said that 8 years ago.
Yeah. And he said it before the election this time.
That's right.
But what the people who have been quiet are those ones who from the Arab community and Palestinian community who were advocating for not voting or voting for him.
That's right.
Where are their voices now? What are they going to say now when he wants to just bulldoze the country? Which is basically because he said it's just a demolition site. He said that on day one. It's a demolition site.
He told them, don't even come back. He told them, don't come back. And he told Jordan and Egypt, y'all need to take these people in. No, and as I told you, Jordan said, no, we're not.
And as I told you yesterday, they never left Palestine. They were just in the southern region. They weren't in Egypt. You have some people who left because of to survive in the sense of they were targeted to be murdered. There were a couple of journalists that left because of that. But for almost 1.8 or almost 2 million people were crammed into the southern part of the country.
Yeah, that's right.
And now they were moving back north, which is where you talk about stay out, but they're still moving back north. But they were bombing the south as well. And how are you going to do it without coming in there and doing something military? You have to do something military because these people have already said we're back home and we don't intend to leave. And they're not all Hamas. And I think that's the part where we have to change the narrative. Is that even in that thing, that the piece that you just heard, they have to get Hamas not to be in control, but you still have people who are not a part of Hamas. Mm-hmm. It's just like he's a Republican. We're not Republican.
Right.
So there are people who are in America who are not Republicans. They're not all the same, and nor are they all Muslim. And people keep wanting to see them that way. They're not all Muslim. And for him to on TV in a press conference with Netanyahu, which I think was the worst thing ever, and say America's just gonna take it, and he said, "Oh, it'll be great. It'll be another Monaco." He said that before.
He said it before. He said it several times.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And Jared Kushner, he's already over there with his plans and got his $2 billion.
Well, they say that he is about to be his stock on the news of this. He made money on just the announcement last night on the stock, on the investment that he made for that land. Right. This is, again, follow the money. So it's doing two things. One is putting money in their pocket. So all of these companies that needed to hear this information, their stock goes up.
Right.
Meanwhile, when it was probably low, and this is allegedly, they probably were able to buy stock when it was low. And now, even if this doesn't take place, you know how much money they made in just 24 hours in the announcement of this news?
Hmm? But that's what it's about. It's about money.
And Saudi Arabia said, we ain't going for that either. The Muslim nations will never go for a United States of America state in the middle of the Middle East.
When I heard the thing about Saudi
Ain't
Arabia,
gonna ever happen.
But they're so hypocritical, though.
Yes.
You gave Jared Kushner $2 billion. Where was Saudi Arabia while they were destroying Gaza? Where were they?
Well,
same
thing with Egypt and Jordan. They did not want to help. They were like, we don't want.
Right.
You don't. They can't come here. They're not going to destabilize our countries.
So they didn't want to help when the conflict was happening.
Yeah.
And now you're saying we don't want them over there, but that's the hypocrisy of it all. Is that part to me? Like they're hypocrites, and they need to be called out for hypocrites. And yes, this is about money. This is about all of them making money, every one of them. And we're gonna clean it out. We're gonna create jobs. Who's gonna get the jobs?
Yeah, okay. It's not gonna be the Palestinians because they told them they can't come back. They don't want them back. And the Palestinians, they interviewed Palestinians going back north from the southern part going up north. They said they do not care if they have to live in blown up buildings. That's their home. That's their home. If they have to pitch a tent for the rest of their lives, they want their homes. That's their land. Some of those people paid for that land.
Right. Yeah.
And you want to just say no more?
Yeah, my husband was like, well, how are they going to live? I said, honey, look, I have lived in a house without a bathroom and running water and a wood burning stove. What do you mean? You survive. You do what you have to do to survive. And that's what they're doing. Now, what they have to look out for is they're going to block any form of humanitarian aid coming in for them.
Yeah.
So part of it is, are they going to try to starve them to death because they can't get food?
That's a possibility.
They destroyed any possibility of them having their own food, right?
Well, they also remember
because they've already said they weren't going to do that. And they're already getting rid of the agencies that would do that.
Right, because the USAID would be the agency that would help them, right? Because they're the ones responsible for international affairs and helping fund and feed all of these people in Africa and all around the world, not just Africa, but around the world, that American, and let's not get it twisted. Someone made a commentary on one of the news programs this morning, that the food that we send over to these countries like Rwanda, Sudan, Congo, all these places, the American government buys that food from American farmers,
right,
to send it over. So now what's happening is some of those farmers are like, wait a minute. Again, Trump supporters, right? These are the farmers. They're like, wait a minute. What's going to happen to our grains? What's going to happen to our crops? What are we going to do with that? Who's going to eat them? Who's going to buy them? So now there's a run. Now people are running wild trying to figure out how to reinstate some of these programs. But now, because these programs have been shut down for a couple of days, they say it takes a long time to reinstate them.
Well, the whole thing, they forgot about the soybeans. That's all I'm going to say. I'm sure Gwendolyn has something to say, but they forgot about those poor soybeans.
They forgot about the American farmers. It's the same thing with anything America does. It's only for America. People, like when we send, again, when we gave money to Ukraine, well, it's more of a voucher. They take that promissory and that voucher, and then they go to an American company, Boeing and all the others out there that, I'm not sure of Boeing, but the ones that make weapons, and then they purchase it from America. Or America takes their old weapons and send it over as a write it off, or as a money being sent over. And then America takes those dollars, the American dollars, and purchases new weapons for America, for itself. America doesn't, again, people think we do things because, we're just doing it because of charitable reasons. No, what we do to help the world, yes, it helps them, but we are also helping ourselves. Anyway, Gwendolyn, you haven't talked yet.
No, my voice is on the low side today.
You've been talking all weekend.
We've been talking all week, but I was just thinking, as you said, that you create problems, and we know that some of the things that are out there, America was part of the problem, and then they come back to sort of solve the problem, right? But if you think about the audacity of an American president to say, I'm just going to take somebody's land, it's, as I put in the comments, it's straight colonizer behavior. I'm going to come in and take somebody's property and push them out. Again, it is a new day. Now, it's always been about the money. I believe everybody knows that. Take it back. People know it. They're choosing not to believe it. I had a chat this morning with my family, reading all the news, and there's so much going on. So again, like we keep talking about, watch the okie doke. I say watch the money first before you go running for all the other things, because these legacy media outlets will pick the one thing they want to focus on while something else is happening. And so you have to sort of let all the chips fall and then look at the entire picture for the day. So I get my 15 minutes of news this morning. So I saw the news about Gaza and I thought, what in all of God's great name are you talking about? But if you think about what he said, in order to do all that, you're looking at another war. You've had these people put their kids' life on the line. And for what? For you to make some money? At some point, people are going to have to say, this is too much. You're going to have to get off the sideline and get on the front line. Like that's where we're headed, plain and simple. But I'm like him. I'm just speechless. I'm not shocked. I'm not in awe. I'm just literally, as my mug says, minding my business. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. Hello, Dr. Tachi. Hello.
Dr. Tachi's in the building.
Good morning. I actually just saw your message. I said, I've been summoned again. Okay. Let me come on.
Man, I mean, it's just amazing what's going on. But I mean, did you hear about it? When did you hear about it this morning, or did you hear about it last night?
Me?
Yes,
this morning. Again, should anybody be shocked?
We're not shocked. I don't think anyone in this community is shocked.
This is what happens. But the interesting thing is, how do I say this nicely? I can't. So it's interesting.
Don't say it nicely. Just say it.
It's interesting the reaction that this gets versus them talking about taking away aid to South Africa.
Yes.
I don't have to say any more, do I?
Well, since you did bring that up, I mean, the hokey doke, like the okey doke, that is just crazy. First of all, I love, because for those that remember, I lived there for a short period of time. I love the response of the South African president. He said, look, I don't mind what's going on in America. You guys should not be worried about what's going on in South Africa. Unless I check, during apartheid, I'm paraphrasing, there was no Trump to be found. When we were resisting apartheid, there was no Trump to be found. He doesn't know anything about our affairs, and neither do we want to know about his affairs. Mind your business and get your own house in order.
Exactly. That's exactly it. You all, I'm sure, know how I feel about that. I don't believe the colonizers have business in South Africa. And if you're going to be there, be a guest. You're not there trying to take over. I mean, even if you look at South Africa today, there's still years and years and decades after the quote dismantling after physical apartheid, there are still inequities between those who own and those who do not own. You still have large numbers of colonizers that own things, and inhabitants of South Africa do not. So don't come and tell me that this is, I get so incensed by South Africa, because I'm like, the unmitigated, clear audacity of you to come into someone else's country and act as if you belong. Even when I hear some colonizing South Africans talk about it as, oh, South Africa is a mess. Well, you made it a mess. You had no business there in the first place. I don't give a damn if there is a colonizer South African that's watching. Well, you know that what I'm saying is true. I could give near a damn. But going back to the thing, it's interesting that the narrative is always toward, even with some media outlets, always toward what is useful to the US. Yeah. So because I've never heard them talk about South Africa, they don't talk about it since apartheid and all the uprisings and everything. You don't hear about it in the news. So now, even though it's not as focused on, the fact that now you're talking about, well, where were you all this time? Where have you been all this time between the end of apartheid and now, when things are there's still inequities? Why are you not talking about that? But now that there's this, and King Elon, or Felon, Elon with an F, wants to talk about this now. Now it's a thing.
Yes.
So yeah. So I heard about that, but I'm like, interesting. But the other thing doesn't get as much, and that doesn't make it right. But as you were saying, there's no way in hell they're going to stand for that. I don't know who you think you're playing with, but sometimes the over nationalism makes you forget about cultures and the way other cultures respond to things.
Yeah.
Arab cultures don't like disrespect.
No.
Nor do African cultures like disrespect. So you're about to go into the FAFO phase very quickly.
Very quickly. And I just want to bring up a point. It's not when I was living in Johannesburg, and my driver would pick me up in the morning to take me to different places. So what this particular day, we were on our way to the mines, because I wanted to see the titanium mines, and I wanted to photograph the workers and the people. And so we were going out to it's far out from Johannesburg, and about an hour and a half drive. And so we drove out, and if you've ever been to Cape Town, or you've been to Johannesburg, or anywhere in South Africa, especially the main cities, is that you have what's called townships. And townships is where the people literally live on top of each other. And you see townships in other parts of the world, like Brazil. Brazil is probably one of the most recognizable ones. Argentina, but in South Africa, in Cape Town, Johannesburg, they have the townships, and they are on top of each other. And a lot of the homes do not have plumbing. They do not have, like, we get up in the morning, let's say, and this is my tour guide, and I'll get back to my trip with my driver. My tour guide, when I was in Cape Town, invited me to his house. And so there was, it had the kitchen and everything inside, and maybe one chair inside, but everyone sleeps inside in case it rains. But most people sleep outside because there's not enough room if you have a big family. Number two, they brought up the point that when you go to all the hotels and office buildings, most of those folks clean up these beautiful buildings, these beautiful spaces, And then when they go back home, they go home to the township. So he was sharing with me not my driver, my drivers also lived in a township as well, because I went to his township as well, also. And so he mentioned that if your young daughter has to go to the bathroom, it's not about just her getting up and going into a room, closing the door and going to the bathroom. The bathrooms for most people in the township, they have to walk about 600 feet up to almost a half a mile to get to the bathroom. So if your daughter really has to go to the bathroom, you have to get your clothes on, get your gear on, and walk your daughter for almost a half a mile in some cases to take her to the bathroom. This is how South Africans live in townships. And this is the creation from apartheid. Apartheid was cruel. Apartheid was, again, this just like what we see here in America happening. The cruelty is the point.
Yes.
And I sat there and I remember as he was saying that, I looked around me and I was like, wow, that's pretty powerful. That you know, because when you're in the township, the kids are running around with joy. Everyone's happy in their situation. And it baffles your mind, because here's a place where people have very little, but they operate as if they have the world, their joy. But that's not to neglect the fact that apartheid was devastating, and it still is. There's parts of it that still exists, as in the remnants of it. So now I'm going back to I said that to tell you about my driver. So he was asking me about Trump. This is the first Trump, when Trump first got elected. And then we were just driving on the countryside. And we were in the countryside, and I saw all of these houses. Like, it was one house and all this property, then one house and all this property. And he said, oh yeah, those are where the white people live. Mm-hmm. And I said, and so me being who I am, I became very agitated. And he says, he said, did I hit a nerve, sir? And so I started to rant about, the African white folks that stole African lands to build and create farmland and all that stuff that they're making money for, which is decades and a century later. I'm watching how I say and phrase my words. So I began to display my anger, as in, this is unacceptable. And so when apartheid ended and when Nelson Mandela became president, he did what's called reconciliation. That was called Reconciliation Day, where all of the country is supposed, the strategy was that people that were wronged during apartheid would face the people that wronged them, and the people that wronged them would obviously face the people that they wronged. And they were to come together to reconcile what had happened during apartheid. In part of that, there was an act created, signed into law, that they started to hand over property that white Africans that stole the land under apartheid, were being handed back if the Black family could prove, the South African family, Black South African family, can prove that their land was stolen, paperwork, dates, and everything, Then they went before the court for reconciliation. Then that family that white family had to give back that land that was stolen because of apartheid. So when you look around at South Africa, you see these moments where this is happening. That the white families that under apartheid that stole the land or was given the land, snatched from black families and given to the white Afrikaans with the K in it. And then they had to come to reconciliation. So I happened to be there during reconciliation day. And the nation stops to think about what had happened to them under apartheid. And that is the moment of reconciliation. So now Trump he gets half the story from Elon Musk. Because Elon is upset, allegedly, that all these white people have to give back this land. So now you guys, when you hear Trump say when they asked him about it, because most Americans don't understand what this statement means. Well, there's a lot of bad things going on down in South Africa. They're doing bad things. They're doing bad things. They're doing this, and they're taking from people, and they're doing bad things. What he has heard from Elon and the other two rich billionaires that are on his shoulders from South Africa, apartheid has moved to America, y'all, and the voices into the head of the presidency. But anyway, going back to the story, is that he's talking about white people that have to give up their land, the land that they stole, or the government under apartheid gave to those families that wasn't theirs in the first place. And so white Afrikaans, or the Afrikaans with the K, if you look at, you see African, K-A-N. Afrikaners. They are the ones that are upset that they have to give back the land that they took from the Africans. So that's to give you the full story of what is going on and why Trump is upset with South Africa. Not because they did something wrong. I mean, there's the second level because, South Africa is part of BRIC. And I won't even go into that. That's another story for another day. But anyway, go ahead, Dr. Tachi.
So you're mad that you've been eating at this restaurant for free for years. And now that they've come to have you settle the bill, you want to get all upset and red?
That's right.
You've been eating for free for years, centuries.
Exactly.
And now somebody is asking you to do what is right. I can't go into a restaurant and eat there all the time and act like, you dare ask me to pay? I can't do that. So the very audacity, it's the clear audacity to me. I'm like, wow, you have the least level of education that any human can have if you think that this is okay. It goes beyond decency. These are just some things that are universal truths and norms. So that's why this upsets me so much, because the whole thing is, South Africa today, the rest of Africa tomorrow. Yes. And it's already starting to happen in terms of foreign entities coming in and promising infrastructure upgrades, giving these loans, but at what cost?
And Dr. Tachi speaking about China. And Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Because and just to throw this in, I'm going to give also that Gwendolyn get in here and Elise, but people forget, and not forget, they weren't told. In August, I think it was August of 2024, there was a big event that went on in the world, a very big event, and it was not on American television. It was nowhere to be found. Only, I think, Newsday covered it, maybe a newspaper. And that was the African Summit in Pittsburgh. St. Petersburg, Russia. And if you go Google it up, you can see the picture. And you have all of the African leaders from all of the African countries. And Putin standing in the middle, surrounded by all of the African leaders. Because, see, the stupidity of Trump, America is already losing a foothold in Africa. Some believe the reason that Obama won the elections and why so many people got behind him in the upper levels of the echelon is because they needed a Black representation from America to do business with African leaders. And Obama did pass several legislations to build the gap with African countries. So, but that ground that was covered, or say gained by Obama, and let me say also Bush, George Bush, people like to give him a hard time, but some of the largest loans and grants were given to Africa through Bush Jr. When you go to Ghana, when I was in Ghana, you drive around and the roads were being built. And there's a connection between the people of Ghana and the people of America. The people of Ghana are very thankful for America because they built the highways. A lot of money went into the infrastructure because George Bush saw that China was moving in. And when you go to Nigeria, I'll never forget my time in Nigeria, hanging out, just eating of some food. And I saw a huge, big trailway bus coming through it, and it had no one on it but Chinese people. And they were surveying Nigeria to figure out what properties they were going to buy, where they were going to settle in. So while America is fighting against themselves and trying to become isolationists, America is going to lose out so much because all of the major resources of the world are where?
In Africa.
Africa. And now, if the African nations are now bonding with the Chinese, and we know that the Chinese are trying to get their gold and all the other stuff out of there because they wanted to get their weaponry, they want to get their space program going. There's a whole lot of minerals. So China says, we will build your infrastructure, but we want your minerals. Now, some African countries, like Congo, say, wait a minute, we don't like what you're doing here. Because there were some points in some of this movement that they would send Chinese people from China, men, to impregnate the women, to have children so that they can gain access to the land. So there's a whole lot going on in the globe that never makes the news in America.
But you know they get that from what happened here with Native Americans. What happened in Oklahoma. That's happened in Oklahoma. When the white men went out there and impregnated those women and got control of their land and killed those people, killed those women.
Yes.
So that's stuff that they get from here. And then, the problem though, the larger problem is you're on the richest continent in the world is Africa. But you've been so conditioned and groomed to fight each other that you don't know that it's better if you came together and you make the money. So that's why you can be picked off the way they're being picked off. I mean, you talk about the Congo and what they said. You see what started happening in Congo. They recruited people from Rwanda to start to participate in the I don't even want to call it a war, but in the killing of people over in the Congo. So they recruit these people.
And it's amazing you bring that up, because there was an interview, because I stay abreast of this stuff that's going on in Africa. There was an interview this week, I think Monday. It was either Monday or Tuesday, or today is Wednesday. So either Monday or Sunday. And they interviewed the Rwanda president about his troops being in Congo.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept saying he does not know anything about it. So the news guy said, how could you be the president of your country and not know where your troops are?
Right.
Confronted him. But there's a whole lot going on that so while all like Gwendolyn said, the okey doke,
yes,
there's a lot going on in the world that we need to not only not just think about what's going on here in America, which is very important for us to know what's going on, and we need to be fighting where we can fight. But we still have to have another eye on what's going on in the rest of the world. As a matter of fact, Africa right now, because of these two young presidents, the one of Congo and the one of I forgot. It's
Burkina Faso.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And those two leaders have been getting death threats. They've tried to kill them, because what they're trying to do is unite the whole continent. They're trying to create the United Continent of Africa, or the United States of Africa. And they're building all of these coalitions and together to build because if Africa was a country, like if Africa took all those countries and made them states, and they all became united and made policies based on what was good for all of them, they would become the richest country in the world, because they have all the gold. They literally, and this is why allegedly Gaddafi was killed, because he was uniting Africa, and he came out with his statement that we can have our own monetary policy, our own dollar, and not like the US. We can back it with gold.
Right.
Because remember, the US used to be backed by gold. It is no longer backed by gold. But Gaddafi said, we can have our own monetary policy, and we will back it with the gold we have in Africa, which is plentiful. And the world was upset. The West got upset. And allegedly, you gotta say allegedly, one of the reasons for his demise. Anyway, Gwendolyn, what you got? What's going on over there?
I think about how the actions from our current president reflect the current life in America. It's a silo. It's all about me. It's a lack of understanding about community and unity and working together. Because if you look at how he's going about things, it is, again, make America great, which I don't know exactly when that ever happened. But it's that whole idea of it's all about us. We live in a global society.
Yes.
We all depend. If one thing happens over here, it impacts everybody. It's not just, it's like fires, right? If one house is burning, it's a very good chance that fire is going to jump and also burn your house. So it helps you to help your neighbor. We're not in this by ourselves. Like, no one gets through this by themselves. So I'm not surprised to see how America is shooting itself in the foot, because it's not going to work. Like, who goes out and wants to pick fights with your allies? Who does that? Now, I'm old school. And a lot of my cousins and I, like, we went to school together. So if you picked on one, you were fighting all of us. Even, you know, like that's how we were working. It was literally this
that's a true
community thing. So you just
Gwendolyn
involved the
family.
people because it was just nothing to do. But you come out and you believe that you were going to just pick fights with every single person. That is so ridiculous. It is strategic because, again, the whole idea is to stress people out and wear them down. That's the whole idea, so that they just give in. They just give in. And for a lot of Americans, because they just never thought it could happen here, a lot of them, as this one guy was saying the other day, they're ostriches. They have their head in the sand. They're not eagles. They're not up high looking at what's about to go down. There is no global view of how all of this stuff is connected.
All connected.
Because even if they say, no, it's not going to happen, they put their head back in the ground. You have got to get out of that. Now, we have talked about just a little bit of the news because there's so much going on.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to say, I know we're getting close to time, to wrap it all up again, it goes back to returning to our roots. Anthony and I were talking the other day about how, like, my grandmother, she didn't get an attached bathroom until like 1991, 92. So I know about, using an outhouse. I know about having to heat up water to put into a galvanized tub to take a bath. And you use a bed sheet to, put it on the line and to have some privacy. We have done a great deal. We have dealt without. But that whole idea of, as you mentioned, they don't have a lot, right? America has always had this idea of, let me take all the things. It's colonizer behavior. I can never have enough. I need your land and your land and your land, and I need this. Like that's what that is. Most people, as I said before, have more than enough. We are blessed beyond measure. Blessed beyond measure. But for a number of people, and we've said it, you're going to have to let go of that mentality in order for us to see some real change. Because even when we talk about banding together as a community, there's going to be somebody who likes how the current system is working for them and they're not ready to give it up. And that's just what that is. It is what it is. I'm not concerned about that. But we have to realize that we are in this together and we're at a place where you're going to have to get off the sideline and start fighting for some stuff. Be prepared to get a couple of bruises and scratches. And I don't want to say hurt somebody's feelings, but just make them feel uncomfortable. This is where we are. Pace yourself is how I look at it as a marathon runner. Pace yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good wisdom there. And Elise?
I think Dr. Tachi wanted to say something.
Oh, go ahead. You go first. You go first.
So definitely pace yourself. And and I was listening to you as you were talking about the townships and stuff. And I told you, I grew up without indoor plumbing. So that was nothing new. If I had to go back to it, I know how to dig a hole and use a pot. We didn't have to walk 600 feet. We just had a pot with a lid in the house. We had chamber pots in the house. You had a tub, you heated the water, you cooked and did everything on wood. Which is, you not careful, you could be back there. But and as far as apartheid, that's a system that's been in America.
Yes.
But I mean, that we've had such horrible atrocities that have been on other people, on the Native people and on Black people in general. And so we have gotten so used to it, and Anthony put it in there, you got so used to toilets. That we don't want to be uncomfortable, and this part of my story, I went to live with my mother when I was 10. She had all of the things in the house, indoor plumbing, all of this stuff. I hated it there in Ohio. When I was 12, I went back to that same 4-bedroom house, that 4-room house, 4 rooms, without indoor plumbing. We did have a gas stove by this point, but I went back to that because why? I was happy there. We assume that unless you have all of these things, you can't be happy. And it's like what Gwendolyn was saying, we want more and more and more. We get so greedy that we keep trying to accumulate more. And then there are people out here that don't care what they sacrifice or who they sacrifice to get that more.
Yeah.
And that's what we see with people who spent their time. I'm going to show Kamala Harris and I'm going to show the Democrat. You didn't show anyone anything. What you showed was how stupid you were to not vote or go vote for someone who did not have your best interest at heart and told you what they were going to do from the beginning. And now you put these people, over almost 2 million people, in peril because you were sitting comfortable, not hearing bombs all night, with your toilets and all of that stuff going on. You were with all of that. You were so comfortable in that you didn't really care about them. You were in your arrogance at that point, and you risked somebody else's comfort.
Yes,
because you were comfortable. And I think we have to think about that. And as you said, there's so much going on. And the next thing is what they're getting ready to cut out of the education system. And we haven't even talked about this access to the financial systems that are benefiting, that it's all about money, power, and control. And we have got to galvanize and come together. We have got to, as I said the other day, not just what are Democrats doing, what are we doing?
Yeah.
How are we coming together as people? What are we fighting? What are we doing? It's not just about, Target. That's so what? If you don't have money, it doesn't matter. We're not gonna buy anything from Target. What does that matter? How are we gonna survive as people?
That's right.
Because we weren't the ones jumping out of the windows when the Great Depression happened. That's what Black people didn't have access to banks, so they started saving money under their mattresses. So they had money enough to help save Cadillac because they paid things in cash.
Cadillac would have been destroyed if it wasn't for Black people. That's right.
The woman
company
who
Cadillac.
Melba's restaurant in Harlem told her story, saved her money under her mattress to purchase her restaurant with $300,000. She had it in her house in cash because that was the system that they had before. We got so far away from it. And I saw a thing on, I think it's on Hulu, Ptolemy, the life of Ptolemy Gray, the last days of Gray with Samuel L. Jackson. And what he pulled out a suitcase where he saved his money in cash in his suitcase and took it to the bank, and he had over $40,000. We're not planning for what is going to happen or what could actually happen in this country if our systems fail.
Yeah.
If these people who are taking control of, who have not been vetted, who do not have security clearance, have access to the money systems in America that impacts people, Social Security, federal retirements, Medicare, Medicaid, every system, and the Internal Revenue Service, which they want to cut out anyway. So we're being so distracted, we're not seeing what's coming for us. And we got to pay attention to what's coming for us. So I started doing that little thing where they say every time you get $5, you put it away and don't touch it. So I have cash. So you start building up cash in your house because anytime they could tell you, and he said this, when Elon Musk started helping him in Pennsylvania, how good he was with those computers.
Yes, he did.
And how he won by a landslide. I don't know if that went over people's head or not, but lots of things are possible when it comes to technology. And these young guys that he now has that are in here who have locked congressional representatives out
the building.
You're not letting Congress in a building that they have on the oversight committee for? We got a lot to think about. We have a whole lot to think about. And we can look at what's happened to Gaza. We can look, but we also have to make sure we're looking at the world and how the world is looking, but we also have to make sure we're paying attention to what's happening here, because what's happening here is our life is going to change tomorrow. Has already changed. It changed on November the 5th.
Yeah, this is not the same America. This is not the same America that was around in January 19th and 20th. This is a different America, and we need to act accordingly.
And you have to start believing. I don't care who the person is. When people tell you something, they show you who they are, believe it.
Yes.
Stop trying to paint a fantasy picture that you want. And the poor folks that started crying when they went to that machine and their EBT card wasn't working that day. Girl, you didn't know that. In Appalachia, with your EBT card, it wasn't going to work just like it wasn't going to work in DC. You crying now because your card not working. They literally couldn't go to the doctor because Medicare cards they couldn't get in that system. So, but that's what they voted for, or that's what the 36% who didn't vote attributed to. You gotta do it. Don't forget those elections coming up this year.
Make sure you guys are hitting the likes so that way we can. Again, I see as you hit the likes, it goes out to more people, so that way they know that we're here and that we're online and we're talking and sharing. Dr. Tashi, I saw you had something to say.
Yeah, absolutely. To your point, Ms. Elise, and yeah, you reap what you sow. So if you're looking for sympathy, like we always give you, you don't come this way because you shan't find it from me. I am not sympathetic at all. It's not about being callous. It's about at some point you have to take the responsibility for your actions. You never do. You refuse to. We always say, "Oh, pobre pussycat," and then take you back in. This time, it's not happening. Too damn bad for you. FAFO. So to the points of going back to original ways, and we're kind of prepared for this. I kind of identify because, of course, my parents grew up in Africa. They grew up in thatched roof houses. They did not have, they built, once they went to school and stuff, they went back and built houses for my grandparents. They didn't have a house. They had earthenware building, one room with a thatched roof. That's what they had. And then when they built a house, it wasn't customary back then, like in the 80s and early 80s, to build an indoor bathroom, right? Or toilet and then separate. It was in the compound, but it was still not in the house, right? So it wasn't like, and the kitchen was still outside. So it was more like a compound thing, but now it was built out of cement blocks, right? So I can kind of identify, and you're 100% correct that the people who have never had to deal with this, they're the ones that are, what are we going to do? Target is that we can't shop there. So it's, you have to become a little bit uncomfortable, or a lot of bit uncomfortable. When I look at the comments that are being said about what, the calls now for a boycott of Target, I've seen, these specific ones of Target. Of course, I'm sure others are coming, but people are like, oh, not Target. Sit down and think about what you get out of Target. Can you really not get this anyplace else? It doesn't, this is the United States. Really, for real, you can't get this anyplace else? For real, you can? You can. It's just that it is too inconvenient for you, and you don't want to be inconvenienced. We've become so used to convenience that there's nothing wrong with convenience. But when that convenience disables you to the point that you can't function if it's not there, that's problematic. You should always be able to function without these conveniences. If you can't wash your clothes, listen, some people will just have filthy, bloody clothes if they don't have a washing machine because they won't know what the heck to do. What do? Take a bucket and wash your clothes, idiot. That's what you do. So some people don't have the knowledge to do that. And arguably, the conveniences and people have enabled that type of culture. So that doesn't mean don't live in your conveniences, but realize that they can be taken away at any time, and that you should be willing to give them up when it comes to the liberation of everyone.
That's right.
You cannot be, and it's the same thing going back to the whole Target thing, the giving up those vendors that are in Target that happen to be of color or whatever, the ones, again, I don't want to get into the thing and shame them, but I'm like, you should not be willing to sacrifice everybody else for yourself. So that's also another message to those people that happen to be in big box stores, happen to have these collaborations. When you can get out of it, my suggestion is get out of it, because you're next. You're not special. You're just next. Why would you think that they would treat you any differently? So we just need to wake up. That's my final thing. The end of school days, when Lawrence Fishburne said, "Wake up," that's what needs to happen.
Remember that? Wake up.
Yes.
And this is because the Target boycott is on, and Elise says, and I hope that the Black community begins to support. There's this woman, I think there's two people now online. They are compiling data of all of the Black businesses that you can support, get your paper towels from, get this from, get that from, and you can support all these Black businesses that are out there. Also, but again, like Roland Martin said, this cannot be just a Black people boycott. It needs to be white women, because it's affecting white women. It's affecting poor white men. It's affecting poor people in the Appalachia, like that young lady. Unfortunately, that was a good video, but from Appalachia. But remember also, we have to remember our forefathers, our ancestors. Montgomery boycott. And I want you to think about it. Go back to the Montgomery boycott. If you know, most of us know this, right?
Yeah.
And how many days it was? 381 days. Black folks and Jewish folks and white people that supported the cause did not ride the buses for 381 days. So how did they get to work? And when it got cold, because it does get cold in the South. So I was under the impression that it didn't, but yeah, it gets very cold in the South.
It gets cold, yes. It gets cold.
Very cold.
It's cold in Alabama.
And you have to walk, and these folks did not break it for 381 days. That's a year and 2 months?
Yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time being committed. So we have to be thinking about these boycotts of Target, Walmart, whoever, how they're going to do it. There's one woman and an organization that they're doing the boycotts in cycles. So like they do in France when they do their boycotts. It's Target in 1 month, and then it's Walmart, then it's back to Target, then it's another store. And so that way you can make an impact with everyone hitting one company at a time.
Well, may I add something to that before I talk about Dasava made a comment about like what's the next step and what are we doing? So I would like to suggest that we not boycott, but make, as Dr. Tachi says, an actual change in behavior. Now, I've told you this, Ron. I went to Dillard's to buy my dad a gift for the holidays. This guy gave me the hardest time. It's so expensive. It's so expensive. I was like, dude, just want to buy the briefcase. I bought the briefcase. I have not shopped at Dillard's since then. You're not going to get my money if what you do and what you represent does not match my values. End of story. So I get the idea of do it this month, do it that month. Stop it altogether. Change your behavior.
Yeah, because
go directly to the business, because that saves them money anyway. They get more of the profit if you go direct to them versus using the middleman. Change your behavior, because if you step out of your circle, you're going to step back into it. Do not go back in the circle. Change your behavior. Now, Addie Rar is a young lady who made one of the books or directories of Black businesses. I actually bought some of her art some time ago. And this is where I'm going with. When you are committed to change, when you want to get it done, you're going to find the people you want to help you make that change. So yesterday at the conference, I met a number of photographers who are working on directories and coalitions and committees to do some work. I said it before. This is when you move in silence. You're not going to find this out here on the social medias and what have you, because you don't want to show your hand. Do what you got to do. This young man in Grand Prairie said, look, I want to make a difference. I'm going to start it right here, right now. The number of Black creatives this past couple of days exchanging info and making real, genuine connections. Oh my God. My heart was overflowing. We all recognize what we need to do. We recognize it, and we don't have to showcase it. We don't have to blast it. You move in silence, stealth mode, like ninjas. It's what you do. So if you are looking for those people, get out, talk to some people, have these conversations. And if you're not finding it, then you start it. And together we can make the change that we need and show it as we need to show up. But I don't believe it needs to be blasted. So that's where I'm finding some of these Black people and some of the next moves. We're joining groups. We have email newsletters. It's like before, but it's the same. It's just digital versus being printed. It's digital.
Well,
Yeah,
and the great thing about this time,
thing.
we do have technology to bridge us together. And Gwendolyn and I was sharing about how much she saw those photographers at the Image USA event that happened It started on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and it ended yesterday. And how people were bridging the gap, talking to each other, connecting with each other, and this is your second time going to Image USA, right?
No, I've gone a number of times.
We've gone a number of times,
but this is the first year. And I hate to say this. This is the first year when a number of Black people really showed up, and it's as if we had this unspoken feeling of
we got to connect,
right? The number of hugs, the smiles, the camaraderie. I tell you, it was a cookout. It was a cookout. And there were people like, oh, so what's going on? Y'all not getting it. You're not supposed to get it. Sometimes there's just that language that we talk without having to say anything. But everybody felt it and expressed it in these networking groups. And it was literally a genuine want to move us forward as a collective, because we see the writing on the wall. And I didn't meet not one person who didn't feel comfortable in saying, here's what I'm feeling. Here's what I'm seeing. What are you doing? And how can I help? I was like, it's about to go down. It's about to go down.
We're only going to win this fight together. We're only, we said this in this community last year. The only way you're going to survive what's coming is community. Now I'm glad to see people are talking about it all over the place. I was like, well, I'm glad I was one of the first people at the water fountain.
Can I say
it is about community? Go ahead, Elise.
I just want to make two comments. And around Target. So one is, they had the lawsuit that their shareholders were coming for them because they said it was impacting their bottom line and because their stocks were going down. So it's about money. And then the other one is to piggyback on what Gwendolyn said, because, this is a part of what I believe. And you have to change behavior. Because one thing that they know, you can say, oh, I'm boycotting Target right now. They know you'll come back because that's been our pattern. Our pattern is they abuse us, use us, and we'll go away for a minute and we yell and scream, and then we come right back to the same trough we left.
Yes.
We'll come back to their start to feed, and they'll just continue to profit from us. And to be able to change that behavior, you just have to change the behavior. You have to go someplace. I mean, I have things that I wouldn't do because they crush small companies. Their businesses I still don't people I still don't do business with because of their pattern of what they did to other people. Other companies, smaller companies that I supported. My thing is that you want some ice cream, go on straight to Ben and Jerry's. Go on to the people that really support you. The people those people are very outspoken about what they say. But the pattern for Black Americans, and I'm going to say this, the people who spend almost $1.8 trillion every year, is that we get abused, talked about, have derogatory things put on our clothes from designers, and we go right back and we sit up there with all this stuff spread all over our chest because they know your pattern is, they mad for the day, but they'll be back tomorrow. And so we have to, in order for anything to be effective, we truly have to change. We truly have to. You talk about the documents that people are Black business. Start in your own city. I Google where are the Black-owned bookstores in New York? Where are the Black-owned bookstores in DC? Where are those things that you can get as much as you can from Black-owned businesses? That's what you have to do.
Let the money circulate within the community. That's what made Black Wall Street so powerful. That they were resilient and they were a light. They were a shining light during a recession. the reason why those white folks got upset, besides the accusation of the man in the elevator, they were just upset as a community, is because they were saying, how are they surviving and we are struggling? They're black, well, they call them the N-word,
Right.
and we are white, and we are not surviving this recession. If you look it up, it was a recession.
Right.
And then on top of that, what made Black Wall Street, Oklahoma, and it was not just Oklahoma, Tulsa was not the only one. There were several of these places around the country of Black communities. And what they did was they kept circulating the dollar in the community, which gave them wealth and built the wealth within the community, which then made their community flourish. So go ahead, Dr. Tachi.
Really quickly. So to your point, necessity is the mother of invention. Why would we not be experts in raising money in cultivating our communities when you told us we can't come over there? We don't have a choice. So, okay, we're going to be 10 times more. We have to work 10 times harder to get this, to Jasmine Crockett's point of what she said on CNN.
Yes.
And the people that are mad are the mediocre ones, because we've always had to work several million times harder to get just a little bit. So we're used to doing that. Of course, we're going to come and swim circles around you because we have been used to working harder. So you're upset because our excellence calls out your mediocrity. Be excellent. Stop being mediocre. That's one. Number two, also, when we talk about businesses, it's also businesses on the side of right. So
Yes.
businesses, but remember, everybody who looks like us, it's not for us.
Hello.
So
Hello.
we have to be
Yes.
targeted.
Say it
in
again.
who we support. Everybody who looks like us is not for us. So simply because you have a business and you happen to be melanated, if you were on that other side, I'm not supporting you.
That's
So
right.
we have to be very calculated and careful of who we support. But of course, we want to definitely support businesses of color, and then also those businesses that are on the side of right. For example, Penzeys Spices. They come out every day like, look, this man, and they dig at him all the time because he actually came. That was the spice place where Kamala Harris went to. So I will buy your spices all day long. So also businesses on the side of right. Third, if you're looking for Black farmers to support, there is an index called the Black Farmers Index, and it breaks it down by state, the places that are farmers in your area. So if you want to buy fresh produce and things like farmers markets, you can find out through the blackfarmersindex.com.
Wow, thank you. Lisa says, the Black dollar circulates 6 hours in our community, 20 in Jewish communities, 30 in Asian communities. We need to change and start from within, support our people. Yeah, and she said even family members, sadly, that are not on the same side as we are. And again, that is very much true. We need to support all businesses, because again, we are now heading into, and I mentioned this last year, we are now, after the election, we are now and Democrats need to wake up to this, because we are no longer in the age of Republicans versus Democrats. It is MAGA, white supremacists, and all those that are on that side, and then all of us who are on the side of justice and equity and integrity and honor and building a United States of America for all. There's only two sides now. It's who's in office, which is the mega people, and all those that support their mindset, all the MAGA brains. However, it is no longer Democrats against Republicans. And Kamala Harris showed that in her election. She had to call on the Republicans that said, we are not with these people. And we have to also know that there's a whole chunk of white people that are on our side. Now, a lot of them some showed up, but unfortunately, 53%, 56% showed up for the MAGA side. But we can't forget that there were 48 and 42% that showed up on the right side of history. And so we need to make sure that we build these communities in cooperations, collaborations together, because it's no longer the Republicans, Democrat. It is the resistance, and that's who we are. We are the resistance. Think of us as now as a Star Wars movie, right? We are against the darkness. We are fighting against the darkness. I don't care if you were a Republican or you're white or you're Asian. I don't care. We all are on this side of the light, fighting against the darkness. And Trump and all his people represent the darkness. And that is where America is now. So we need to throw down all those little things that used to segregate us. Democrats is no longer a Democrat norms. No more Democrat or this is how we're supposed to be and conduct ourselves. No, we are at war. We are fighting for the survival of democracy, but not only that, is our freedoms. Our freedoms are at stake. We have to fight, and we need to connect with people that are fighting with us. And that's how we win. That's how we win against the darkness. We fight together. We pray together. We eat together. We buy together. We strengthen each other together. We are working together to fight this darkness, because that's exactly what it is. They want to take us back to a dark place. We cannot go back. I know I refuse to go back. And I will use this platform as much as I can be here to make sure we go forward together. Any last words as we close out? And where can people find you, Gwendolyn?
Primarily on YouTube, GR Houston Jack, and then we are still using Black Power Bunny on Instagram.
Nice. Elise, where can people find you in your art world and all the great things that you're doing?
S Elise on Instagram, and I think it was Rosemary when she talked about Supreme Court, and I told her, no, Kimmy Kim. So this picture, you all know that painting is about the Supreme Court justice, and they're trying to take us to the back to the past. So we just got to keep ourselves together. We got to come together, and as you say, if there are other allies out there, they need to show themselves.
Yes,
they need to show themselves. They need to step out there so that we can see them. We can't, I'm not gonna assume who people are, because they can tell me anything until I see you show yourself and I see you out there and you're doing some stuff. Like the guy who said, the white guy, farmer something, who said that if people got together, the 99% got together and said for a couple of days, we just not gonna go to work at all. We're just gonna stay at home. You change it, because that's their money.
That's right. Dr. Tachi, where can people find you, Miss conglomerate over there, social media conglomerate?
So at Dr._Tachi, as you see, on this side, as you see down here, that's across the board everywhere. YouTube is really my platform of choice now, but you can of course contact me and get at me on Instagram. Also, we will be coming back soon, Indie Soup Media. Yeah, we actually have a few days before the rest of last season plays, and then we will start the new season on February 24th. So tell people, look, we're talking about supporting Black. If you're not watching Indie Soup Media, even though it's not just Black people, but if you're not watching Indie Soup Media, I don't know what you're doing. We have awesome stuff over there. So
many great people,
great programming. So let's put our eyes and attention where our mouth is. Watch Indie Soup Media. Come on over, tell folks about it. Let's make this a big movement of independent content creators.
I love it. Okay, guys, this was great. Thank you again. Just want to make sure I put out there that my little banners here. Make sure also one is if you're trying to learn how to do photography, make sure you reach out to me, photograph your world. You can do that. And also, if you are looking for an event photographer, I do that. That's my main bread and butter. I love doing it. Make sure you can reach out to me if you have friends that need a photographer for their upcoming events. Let them know of who I am. And I do travel. I travel all over to help clients. Also, I went, oops, that went wrong there. Here we go. And support. Thank you for the Patreon community. If you want to be a Patreon member, go to our Patreon page. You can just go to Patreon and put Ron Lewis photos in there, and it will pop up, and you can support what we do here. Again, it takes money to be on here every day, to talk to you guys and to share. And I think today was a great conversation. If you thought today was a great conversation, please put some love in the comment box. And also, if you're here for the first time, make sure you like and subscribe. And if you are here all the time and you haven't liked yet, make sure you hit the like so that way the algorithms can know that you appreciate this platform. Okay? And I think we're good. I think we are good. Let me just get that little guy off the screen there. And man, you guys made it a great conversation as usual. You guys, I love you all. I just love my little team here. You make it possible. So thank you guys. I see some love. I do see some love. I see some love in the comments. I see some love. So make sure you do that. Also, those are over at Instagram. Make sure that you join us on YouTube at Ron Lewis Photos. Then we appreciate you coming over and enjoying the experience in a better format on our YouTube channel. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, panel, for the great discussion. We covered some great grounds and great conversations. And guys, let's build community and let's stay on the light side and fight against the darkness. Okay, guys, I'm out. We are good to go. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. Make sure you hit the like, the subscribe, and leave a comment on this video. I would love to hear from you. Thank you again. Until I see you next time.